That's why you see it worldwide. There's a lot of people who want to get rid of the population, particularly poor, middle class, and people of color. That is the history of the onslaught of birth control, and I wish that other candidates would do their research. What I would suggest as a bill would be to actually invest in the Women in Military Museum. It's been a thing that I've been thinking about, oddly, when my youngest aunt of my mother's side passed away. It has never had federal funding fully, but it's to honor women in military, like my aunt. She passed away from ovarian cancer. We think that it's from the talcum powder issue, and she was one of those women that you could aspire to be. She was one of the last classes of the Women Officers Corps in the Army, and she has a thing there, and I want to be able to fund that fully. Thank you. Thank you.
As I said with my opening, I've been through a lot, and there'd be a lot of bills I'd introduce. With 534 other people, I doubt if any of them will go, because term limits would be the first thing I would recommend, and if you vote for me, you got term limits. VA gave me 6 months to live in '94, and I'm still here, I don't know how much longer, but I'd be in there fighting for senior citizens and everything. And that would be the first one, but then VA, senior citizen, health care, protect for our youth in our cities. There's so many issues. If you go to Rave Live, Facebook, or YouTube, you'll see my issues I'd be fighting for.
Thank you. Ray, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, right.
I'm only 25 years past my due date. I've had a prepaid fuel for 25 years now.
Fiscal responsibility.
Sure. So the next question is on the legalization of marijuana. In 2019, Pew Research Center polling shows that 67% of U.S. adults support the legalization of marijuana for recreational use. What is your position on the legalization of recreational marijuana use? And if elected, how will you support your position?
Start here with Ray.
I've seen consequences related to marijuana in Vietnam. It usually leads to more drugs. It also, I smoke. It has as many chemicals in it as this, but it causes heart problems now too, it's been diagnosed, where cigarettes don't cause that. I'm against drug use, but do we lock everybody up that uses it? We'd lose half of the population of America, I think, and we don't have the jail. We need to educate people. Prescription drugs, my family was in. My mother was big time prescription drugs. My sisters, most of my mother's relatives, high as a kite on prescription drugs back in the 50s and 60s I grew up with. And they were legal. We need to control what people think, and it's all about money and taxation by our government.
So I support medical cannabis. I do think that the system that we have here in Maryland is corrupted and has made it sorely exponentially difficult for people to actually benefit from the benefits, particularly with pain management. With the opioid crisis, if we actually had topical solutions and other things to sever the THC from the plant. I also appreciate hemp and the strength of the fiber that, of course, the cotton industry got rid of in whenever that was. Decriminalization of marijuana, whether it's possession, small possession, not talking about the big guys, I'm talking about the little ones, definitely support decriminalization. I do not support full legalization at the current moment because I do think there's a huge swath of community that we've allowed to think that it's okay, meaning young boys, young men, particularly between the age of 12 to 40. They're the ones who've dropped out of the workforce because it's supposed to be no big deal, but they're the ones who did not have the means to really get into the system, and that's the reason why I don't support it. Thank you.
Well, being as though it's already being legalized on a state level, I am in support of the marijuana programs that are happening now. We have an organization called Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle, in which they want to actually use the proceeds that are coming from the marijuana industry to actually be a form of reparation for black people who have had mass incarceration, mass lockup, and actually Governor J.B. Pritzker in Illinois just pardoned 11,017 people from 92 counties because of the mass incarceration of the marijuana that was subjected amongst black people. If we can use some of those funds that are coming in, even though I'm talking on a federal level, there's a lot that needs to be done, this is pretty much on a state level. If we can help use that as some form of reparation for individuals that suffered with all of the pot and lockup during that time, I think we should look at that. Thank you.
This is a tough topic for me. I'm not really for legal marijuana. I think, it's kind of like the birth control pill that the government likes to get their cut. I don't know if you guys have seen the taxes that they've been putting on that. But I think with that, sometimes people are still going to go to the black market and get it off the street, right? So, and we all know a lot of weed dealers are not going to stop selling weed because they're now selling it in the government. They're still going to be out there doing it, right? So to me, that's something we have to definitely look at. Now, should we be locking everyone up that you find some, smaller cases of marijuana in them? No, I don't believe that. But that's something that we can take up by state, and I think we can work with the judges on that. But at the same time, we just have to be careful. Like I said, this isn't going to make marijuana dealers stop selling marijuana. Who knows? They might up it and keep it going. And so we don't want to see that happen either. But I don't want to see more government, that's for sure. I'm for less government as a Republican. So thank you.
This next question is about technology. What legislation would you propose to ensure Maryland remains a leader in tech innovation?
We'll begin with Kim.
I didn't know we were the leader in tech innovation. It's hard to tell. Well, I mean, continuing what we're doing, if we are the leader, obviously, we want to continue doing that. I do know that we have a lot of people in the IT tech school systems that go into government contracts in DC, and they end up making really good money and bringing that back home when they take the MARC train home. So whatever we can do to keep it going, I'm for it. But that's a great question. I haven't heard that one.
I'd like to clarify, we are a leader, not a leader.
Oh, okay. We are a leader. That's still good. I mean, there's, there's 50 states, right? So we are still a leader, and I think whatever you can do to continue that. Now, I would like to ask Amazon why they didn't put their headquarters in the greater Baltimore area. I was very confused on that. And for Mayor Pugh to say she wasn't going to tell anyone, before she was indicted, I really would like to know, because if we can get more of those jobs here, that would be great, and then we can continue being not just a leader, but maybe the leader.
They wouldn't sell her books.
Maybe.
Well, one thing that I would love to capitalize when it comes to the technology and the innovation that we're leading right now is the fact that the school system that's in the 7th District has many challenges. And if we could really continue to forge those partnerships with the school system and putting them in the partnerships with a lot of the companies that we have that are here in technology, is a few schools that I'm aware of within the Baltimore City region that's doing that now, but it's not enough, and we can definitely do more. We definitely want our youth to be up with the technology and just, where we could be, and we have a lot more work to do there.
So the reason why we are a leader in technology is because of our university systems, and that's where we actually get a lot of benefit from it. We have a lot of defense contractors, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, who actually have had their headquarters, if not very big parts of their industry there. Obviously the closeness to DC obviously helps, but also the immigration community and also our graduates from our universities here from Maryland. Struggling with that, but also it goes back to taxes, right? One of the main reasons why we don't have more companies that headquarter here are because of our state taxes. And so that's something that obviously on the state level, but again, the reason why a huge company like Amazon does not headquarter here is because of our crime and our schools. Our schools used to be the best and the brightest and all of that, and they wouldn't have to worry about building full-on school systems to support their own employees. But if we don't, again, address it and then also identify what happens in a regional level, are we competing with Virginia as well?
Due to the federal government being close by, that's why we have the high technology. But I remember 30-some years ago, you all, most of you, voted for a bill enabling the state of Maryland to come up with the lotto system. Scratch-offs, pick 3, pick 4. 100% of the money was supposed to go to our schools, our science equipment, our biology equipment. We should have all brand new schools and be #1 in technology. Wait a minute, they have to close the school because it's too hot? Or they have to let the school out early because there's no heat? What happened to the money? Hundreds of billions of dollars we've got in the last 30 years. We gotta hold our elected officials accountable, and I would definitely be accountable to bring more technology to our young people. Thank you.
So in that vein, how do you plan to address the growing concern for consumer data privacy? And should it even be a federal issue?
And get right here with Ray.
Well, I've been spied on most of my life. It's called a credit reporting agency. They want to know everything you're doing to give you a credit score. But it's got a little far now with NSA, collecting all of our data and storing it, saying they're not going to use it. Wait a minute, Snowden said they are. But he's a bad man. But he had proof. He's still a bad man. Our government does a lot of things in spying. All governments do. They're afraid of an uprising of its citizens because they're pushing First Amendment, Second Amendment, and a lot of other amendments. Bill after bill after bill restricting us from all these amendments. Where our Constitution says there can be nothing against them. They're guaranteed our right. But they have to spy on us to make sure we're not going to overthrow them.
Thank you for that question. The NSA is in District 2, so congratulations for the people who are running in District 2. But that was when I first started thinking about being conservative without knowing that I was conservative. Remember the Patriot Act in 2001? When parties don't matter, that's when parties don't matter. The Republican Party, President Bush, really can attest to that point in time where we lost a lot of our privacy. Again, that was back in the day when I was working for the ACLU, and that's something that us civil liberties people really thought that we cared about, but all of a sudden, the people who represent us lost their ground. And that's the reason why I'm really against this whole be a moderate, it's okay. There's certain things that we have to stand firm on as conservatives. And our civil liberties are something that I think that we need to do a lot more standing up for as opposed to acquiescing. With consumer data, especially with big data, all of it, all of our phones, I feel like probably be listening to each other right now. Where does it end? Especially if you've already given them the permission, it's hard to roll back that. So I definitely would be a very outspoken person for that. Thanks.
This can go about 5 or 6 different ways. It's a lot of things that we need to change. It's a lot of things that need to be changed, even from the credit scoring criteria. Really, what's the standard with that? How do we really compile the information for our score? It's keeping a lot of people down. Big corporations are actually selling our data, our information, and just like individuals, we have people that were actually proposing that our data, we should be able to get paid for our data being sold right now. It's multi-billion-dollar industry, in everything that we do. When we go to the grocery store, we have to swipe. When you go to the gas station, you're swiping. It's a lot of laws that need to be reviewed. A lot of things need to be assessed because it's very detrimental to the people here. And I know a lot of situations where you've had identity and information stolen, and it's hard for you to prove who you are, but the crooks were able to get away with so much in your name.
Home
so it's a
Depot.
big problem. It's a problem that we definitely need to look at.
Target.
I agree, it's definitely a problem we have to look at. I myself have had my social security number stolen.
May I have your attention, please? Storyville will be closing in 30 minutes at 8 o'clock. The video game systems will also be shut down at 8 o'clock. Thank you.
So much control around us. I understand, even with the traffic lights, you know, they're always watching, I get that. And I know in Baltimore City, they introduced the spy plane, and there's a lot of people that are for that. If it's gonna do something about crime and violence, I think we can all agree that we should take some steps and do something a little bit different. And I'm actually working with a group now. I don't know if you guys know this, there's at least one fire in a vacant home in Baltimore every single day. And they're actually working on drones and putting the infrared thermal cameras in to pick up body heat and sensing heat, so they can be actually proactive and actually do something about getting to those vacants before they catch fire. So there are some things, you know, that are beneficial, and then there are some things that, you know, intrude on our privacy, and we definitely need to make that line. I know on social media I am a conservative, and sometimes I am not able to post everything I want to post because it is a conservative message. So definitely we need to draw the line somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you.
This next question is about unemployment. The unemployment rate in CD7 is 5.8%, lagging behind both Maryland and the nation's unemployment rates of 3.6 and 3.5% respectively. What is your specific plan to ensure that CD7 can keep pace with the state and country's unemployment rates?
And we
All right, so this is what I am so passionate about. This is what I actually go down to the White House and talk to the administration about every other week, and this is why we were there last week. So the opportunity zones aren't everywhere, right? But we can take advantage of even the outskirts of them. We can take advantage of the port. We have the second largest port in our nation, and we're utilizing it to our advantage. So we could bring in jobs that way, but also we can make sure places like even Amazon or anything else that might do warehousing or anything, because think about the blight in West Baltimore, right? Think about all those vacants that should be demolished, so the structural damage is there. So I've been working with the administration. We've been talking to other companies about possibly putting more job opportunities there. Right now we have a shortage in the nation of truck drivers. We're working with Allstate and Maryland New Directions to do behind-the-wheel training, and they can be trained within 6 weeks for their CDL licensing. They can still live here in the area, and that money would still be here in the greater Baltimore area. So that's what we're working on now, and like I said, it'll be implemented within the next 6 months. Whether I'm elected or not, we're gonna do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
My biggest pet peeve right now is the fact that the people in Baltimore and within this 7th district, it's a lot of individuals that are suffering. When the steel mills were prevalent here in Maryland, a lot of families generationally worked in the steel mills, manufacturing plants. When they were shut down, we were left with individuals on what I call the social service syndrome. What I'm doing right now is I have an individual that has an apprenticeship program that she's ran for 15 years. She started it after Hurricane Katrina. She's actually looking to expand her program because right now she has more youth than what she can accommodate. We have a lot of individuals right now that go to high school, they're not going to go to college, so I'm pushing for the apprenticeships. I'm also pushing to restructure the way that we look at funding and giving individuals that have an idea to start a business true access to capital. We need to get away from the corruption right now. On a federal level, on a state level, when it comes to the contracts, these contracts are going to the same usual suspects. So that's a big problem. We definitely need to address that.
Thank you.
I agree, access to capital as an entrepreneur a couple times, that would be really great. Unemployment is the way that it is because it's kept that way on purpose. Literally, District 7 is become like a poster child for, oh, look, vote for us. Keep your welfare. That's the message, sadly, that has been translated. A lot of people talk about the poor, a lot of people talk about the steel mill. Those are in District 2 on purpose. District 2, District 3, and District 7 divide the city, and that's my biggest pet peeve is the gerrymandering. The reason why the issues are the way they are is because our federal delegation has picked and choose what they want to represent. This District 7 goes all the way up to farm country in Howard County and Baltimore County and includes some of the poorest people in the world, sadly. What I would suggest is appreciating everyone, connecting one to another. The apprenticeships, private organizations, private companies should apprentice each other and make sure that we don't have these artificial barriers. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's hundreds of jobs out there. I've heard a lot of candidates that have businesses saying they can't find a plumber, they can't find an electrician, they can't find a bricklayer. Bring back the VOTEC to the schools where these kids can get a job. There's a lot of kids in Baltimore City want a job, but when you're untrained and the business needs you to go out there and start work today, they can't take weeks or months to train you. The federal government can give money to help train you, but they still need people today to do the work. So when you get out of high school in the VOTEC, there's plenty of jobs out there right now under Trump's creation, but there's nobody skilled to do them with your hands. Is bring back VOTEC, and that would cut the unemployment level greatly to inner city youth that can work with their hands. They might not be able to take tests with their brain because it's not keyed that way, but they can work with their hands and learn.
You've all been waiting for it. Crime question. The district includes portions of Baltimore City, where the crime rate is 145% above the national average, and a new per capita murder rate was set in 2019. What will you do as a member of Congress to address this issue differently from past attempts?
And Mr. Blythe, we'll start with you.
Back to the VOTEC. DC only has a quarter of our population that had 171 murders last year. Half our murder rate in Baltimore, but only a quarter of the population. All big cities are experiencing this because the kids, like I grew up in DC in the slums, have no hope. They're told they have nothing to make of themselves. They're put down. I grew up in the 50s when there wasn't welfare. Now they have welfare and they learn to live on it and sell drugs on the corner to make a few extra dollars. We got to give them hope and make them have self-esteem with VOTEC, where they can bring home a paycheck. Put their parents in VOTEC and GED programs and require them to go there if they get welfare. Because if the parents' education and work, they will want their kids to do the same instead of generation after generation of welfare.
Right, so the crime issue, again, that's a success. That's a socialist success. People always talk about, why do I talk about communism? It's because it's by design. They literally want us to kill each other, and we are very successful at it. The district looks like the way that it is because, again, people can look at it, raise millions of dollars around the country, and keep their coffers full. That's why. If we don't address the drug issue, if we don't address the spiritual religious issue, we will continue to lose dozens and thousands and millions of people, whether it's through abortion or whether it's through what they call black-on-black crime. We have severed ourselves away from our core, from our family structure. We lost our road when we gave 90% of our vote to the Democratic Party. They knew that we were going to do that. And again, that's why I speak so much about Christ and about my own personal spiritual walk, because I was so frustrated that they didn't care. The Democratic Party does not care about fixing things, and that's the reason why we have to have the right Republican here. Thank you.
Once again, this is a big pet peeve of mine, but I used to be the community organizer for the Police Athletic League. My job was to bridge the divide between the community and the police department. We had 2 officers along with 2 sergeants, 16 officers that were assigned to what we call the hotspot high crime area. The officers were able to work with the youth. They were around the families and the children from the time they were 7 to 18. We need to get back to community style policing. The youth had respect for the officers had respect for the youth. We had federal dollars that worked in conjunction with the governor's office of crime prevention, along with the mayor's office and city council. The police officers had daily meetings with parole and probation and the juvenile justice. They got daily updates. They did weekly reports to the mayor's office. And if we looked at the crime which occurred in 2019, it was most high crimes in 3 areas.
All right, so what I would do as a member of Congress, the Crime and Violence, I would support some good crime plans by the local leaders. I mean, I've heard a lot of conspiracy theories. I don't know what's done by design, but I can tell you as a solution, we should be very hard on repeat offenders. We see a lot of repeat offenders. They could, be a violent offender 11 times, and somehow they're back on the street. We need to do something about that. The judges, we got to really lay down on the judges. What we see with this bail reform that Brian Frosch brought forward, there are people that are out walking around after they, beat someone almost to death. With a bat. How is that even possible? To perform bail, that needs to be looked at again. AG Barr, and I know Governor Hogan, they're working on something, and you might not want to hear this, but Thuroo Bignaraja, he's in the mayoral race, he actually has a pretty decent crime plan, and he supports the spy planes, and so we got to really take a look at everything. And also, I would support the FOP and our police officers, because obviously, I don't know if you guys saw that video circulating over the weekend, there's a lot of respect that's been lost, so that needs to be back. Thank you.
He should maintain his license.
This next question is about school redistricting. School redistricting on the basis of income inequality has become a major issue in Howard County and others in the United States. What federal legislation would you propose to address this issue?
All right, so school redistricting. I know it's huge in Howard County. If you think it's only going to happen in Howard County, you're wrong. I know they want to push this in Baltimore County and other areas as well. To me, I look at it as like, why is the teachers union trying to basically spread the poor rather than spreading the knowledge, right? Isn't that what they seem to be doing? So we need to do something about education and holding teachers responsible and getting some results. In Baltimore City, we see that the third highest per capita, third highest as far as per pupil spent on students. And so we've got a lot of money coming into the school system, but no one seems to be getting an education. I'm also for boarding schools. I mean, I don't know if you guys know, but I used to do home visits in Baltimore City, and taking some kids out of their environment for the week isn't such a bad idea. So we really have to look at making sure we educate people and seeing results on the education. I don't think spreading people around makes it any better. Thank you.
Everything comes down to fiscal responsibility, and it comes down to ensuring that the dollars that are going to be allocated towards the school system are going to the areas in which it's specifically assigned to go to. That's what I'm going to do. With the federal dollars right now, we do have inequalities because we have federal dollars that are taken into account of Title I, II, III, and IV schools, in which you have low-income families, and also you have low-performing schools. I want to ensure that the dollars that are supposed to go to those schools, like I stated, are going to the areas that's going to benefit the youth and give families the opportunity to make basically the right decision and choices on the education that their kids can get.
So someone mentioned conspiracy theory. If you, again, did your research, you would know that that's what we're dealing with. If you don't know what you're fighting, you cannot address it. As a former Democrat, as a former Maryland Democrat activist, they have multiple options, whether it's redistricting, whether it's literally keeping people poor, whether it's what? The worldview that they have is that brown and black people are incapable of bettering their lives. That is a communist ideology. Everybody's exhaustible except for the people who you want to keep. I didn't understand it until you accept what Democrat socialism is. That used to be a backbenching idea until, yes, in 2018, people like OAC got a seat. Now Bernie Sanders
Jesus.
is a front runner for my former party.
Jesus.
So the conspiracy theory is not a theory anymore, it's actually legitimate. So we have to identify what it is and attack it full on. Thank you.
I'd love to shake up the whole system by moving all of the Western Howard County school students into the Baltimore City schools and the Baltimore City kids to the Western Howard County schools. But that's just a joke. We need vouchers. You know, Catholic school in Baltimore City, they give kids self-esteem. They make them have pride in themselves so they don't go out and gangbang and kill each other. Is $5,000 less a year than we're spending on Baltimore City kids?
That's right.
Why not give them vouchers to go to these schools, charter schools? They're so much better than our public schools. We put our public schools out of business and these teachers' unions out of business real quick because all parents want their kids to learn.
So if you were elected to Congress, what committee would you want to be on, and what impact would you bring to the committee?
Mr. Ray Bly, we'll start down here with you.
The Justice Committee overseeing judicial legislation, because right now prosecutors don't care if you're innocent or not. They want to get another win on their belt so they can run for higher office. Judges don't care how they're ruled against the law, the statutes, or anything else, because they're very seldomly overturned. They do what they feel like they damn well feel like. They have too much power. We got to take away their immunity and make them pay for crimes they commit against humanity in America. And until we do, nothing's going to change. And it's like the policing they were all talking about to stop the crime. If we give the kids self-esteem and show them they can make a better life for themselves, they won't be out there killing each other. To police them is just the secondary thing.
I actually would love to be on the agriculture committee, seeing the fact that half the district is actually agrarian. And a lot of the financial benefits are under the farm issues, the food stamps, et cetera. So that is something that a typical candidate might not say. But again, that's another reason why District 7 has been missed and underrepresented this whole time. So thank you.
Actually, I would need to be on some type of committee dealing with HUD, housing, and issues, because that's a big passion of mine, dealing with the injustices right now with those that are not getting the opportunities as they should within the district.
I would like to be on the subcommittee of immigration and citizenship. I think right now we keep kicking that can down the block as far as immigration and securing our border. This is what I go on Fox News and I debate almost every month about. People don't realize, or maybe they don't want to realize on the left, you know, when you come over here illegally, you never achieve the American dream because you're always thinking about being deported. And those that come over legally end up doing really great and can enjoy America and being here. So I would love to be on that subcommittee to actually do something about immigration and DACA, the people that we don't hear about now that we're hearing about impeachment, right? So I would like to be on that subcommittee and give it my best. Thank you.
Kaka.
This next question's about big government. Given that Maryland is home to a large population of federal employees, do you support a federal effort to decentralize federal agency concentration in DC? Why or why not?
Well,
No, we will start with Kim and work our way back down.
Okay, you said work on, what would you say?
Do you support a federal, given that Maryland is home to a large population of federal employees, do you support a federal effort to decentralize federal agency concentration in DC? Why or why not?
Look, I mean, let's be honest. So we see a lot of people, like I said, using the MARC train. I used to do it when I was going down on Capitol Hill. I think it's great that we have lots of federal employees in this area. I think it's great that that we're able to utilize it. Think about how many federal employees actually spend money in Baltimore. I mean, I don't know where we would be without the federal jobs that we have today, especially in the fact that they're not utilizing the port. They're not utilizing all the things that we could be taking advantage of. So I support our federal employees, I support our state employees, and why not?
Thank you.